Sorry for that little hiccup. 10 years
That's
total,
okay.
that's a long time. That's
Yeah, well,
amazing. Yeah.
we like it.
What do you love most about being involved with the TEDx?
For us, so TEDx St. Louis really focuses on our area. And for me, that's really important because I love and adore St. Louis. We want to uplift St. Louis and show the best of the best. So for us, it's a way to, we have this amazing opportunity to meet these people in St. Louis that are changing not only us at the local level, but some of them are changing the nation and the world. And we get to hang out with them and help them create an amazing talk from our stage. And it's just really a joy.
So when someone is interested in being involved with TEDx, do you have a process that you use? Do they apply? This is going to be multiple questions all in one. How often do you have one throughout the year? Tell us a little bit more about all that.
Sure. So I'm going to speak from TEDx St. Louis, but all TEDx's operate a little bit different. But TEDx St. Louis, so one, we're a level two TEDx, and there's a reason for that. And that's because we really work for our speakers to get a TED Talk. So this is where the confusion gets in, because people will see a TEDx talk and they'll come to me and be like, oh, I've got this talk to do. I'm like, well, that's not really a TED talk. Well, oh, but I saw this other, I'm like, I get it, and that's a TEDx talk, but we strive to get a TED talk, meaning that when we make the choice of who's going to be on our stage, then we will set them up with a speaker facilitator who will work with them, and they'll also go through courses. Like we've partnered with Coca Biz, and we give them classes in stage presence, slides if they're using them, and also just how to craft a story, because that's a big part of a lot of the talks. And we want them to show up and on that stage with that idea. Now, it used to be idea worth spreading. TED has changed that now to be ideas change everything. So we want that big idea. We find people in two ways. We have mavens out there that really understand what we're looking for. And if they come across someone, they let us know and say, hey, this person's got this going on. There could be a talk in there. So we will interview those people. But then once a year, we have a submission for auditions and then hold auditions. So that should be happening sometime this month, I believe, where we'll do a call for submissions. And if you go to our website, which is TEDx Saint, SAINT, Lewis.org, under Get Involved, there's a section about become a speaker, and that will give you an idea of what we're looking for. And when that opens, you put in all your information, wow us with a very dynamic paragraph, and let us know why you're the person to give that talk. And we will choose about 30 people from 300 submissions to give us an audition. And you get 3 minutes at the audition to just wow the heck out of us.
And then when does that TEDx event typically happen?
It varies. So we have two events every year. We have one in May, that's our innovation event, and then one September, October, that's our women's event. But if you've auditioned for us and we think there's something definitely there, you're going to go on this list. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be chosen for the next the next whatever that the next event that we're doing. But we've had people that have auditioned for us 3 and 4 times and they end up getting a talk. We've had people that we've had on a list for 5 years and we're like, you know what, now's the time for that talk. So it's not necessarily that, you come audition and you don't, and we send you a thing going, hey, not this time around, but we keep you on a list if we think there's something there.
And typically, how many minutes do they get for the actual talk?
So a TED Talk is 18 minutes or less. But to be honest with you, we are now asking people to do 10 to 12 minutes because those videos get clicked on more. And I will tell you, it's quite the process to be able to distill your message down to 10 to 12 minutes. Way easier to talk for an hour about your expertise, but we want you to have this well formulated one big idea, and then everything that you talk about just goes around that idea.
So I noticed in some of your events, and I've attended a couple where there have been youth, younger speakers. And
Yep.
that typical to get applications from that age range?
Not typical. But every once in a while somebody comes across and we're like, wow. I mean, there was one kid that we would have loved to have had, but unfortunately he went away to college and just got too busy, And I was like, well, catch us when you're out of college and if
Yeah.
you
Life
oh,
goes on, people. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, we've had younger people at times that just have a message that we felt was worth putting on stage.
Mhm. That's amazing. So you said you have, I think, did you call them mavens out there recruiting or looking around or open eyes, open ears? Is
Right. There's some people on our speaker committee that, I mean, but there's other people too that, maybe they're past speakers and they've met someone or they've seen someone talk that they think there could be something there. And so, yes, we will take a look at them. And if we think, yeah, let's definitely have an interview with them, then that's when, that's a little bit different because that's usually on Zoom. Our speaker committee just invites you to come talk to us. Those people tend not to have a well-formed idea yet because we're coming to them and saying, what do you got going on here? And can we find that nugget in there from which we can get a great talk? The people that audition for us, they come in usually with a really well-formed idea, those that we choose. And when we do our auditions and we ask the people to come and audition for us, we tell them they can stay there for the entire audition and watch everybody else. And usually people are leaving going, how do you choose a speaker? I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
it's a whole process because, we're thinking about our live event at first. So we need to have a variety of topics that we can cover. And then we're also thinking, well, eventually this is going to be a video that goes out on the global stage, and we want people to click and learn.
Yeah. So Carol mentions and the speaker facilitators do that also. I'm trying to remember Carol, what does that refer to? I thought I would remember. I know.
They act as those mavens. I
Oh, the
got to meet one
mavens.
time
Yeah.
and had him in that role with me, talk and getting to know me
Yeah.
when I
Thank
lived there. Mhm.
Yeah. And so tell me again, or tell us, Mish, what is a speaker facilitator?
So these are people that they've been with us a long time. They understand what a TED Talk is and how to craft that talk. There's not a magical formula, in case you're wondering. There really isn't. I wish I could bottle the essence of what a TED Talk is, but there's not like a first you do this and then you do this, and there's that is not the case at all. It really is just working with the facilitator to first figure out that idea and then everything that needs to go around it to really help that idea to transfer it from the brain of the speaker to the audience, because we look at this as a gift to the audience. That's why you don't see selling from the stage or anything like that. It truly is. I look at it like this is a playground for your brain when you watch any kind of a TED talk. The idea of it is meant that afterwards you want to go talk about it. You want to go tell other people about it and find out what they think about it. And yeah, that's what we do. So the speaker facilitators have a big task and they all take it so seriously because they eventually, of course, want their speaker
Mhm.
to show up on TED.com, not just on TEDx.com.
And whoa, that question just went out of my head. Um, how do you define what is a big idea? Can you give us
I'll
some
give you some
examples?
examples. Yeah, yeah. So one of our speakers we had was Josh Allen, and he's from Companion Bakery. He owns Companion Bakery here in the St. Louis area. And Josh's company, he was able to take his company from producing 1.5 million pounds of waste every year to 500,000 pounds. And there were a lot of things that they put into place to get that done. Now that's interesting, but what is even more interesting is Josh now uses what he calls his trash metric to determine the success of his business. So the lower the trash metric has shown that their sales are better, they have greater client, employee, vendor satisfaction. That's a very interesting way to look at business and a different way to look at business. So that would be a big idea. Another one that we had that was really popular is Holly Fan. And Holly Fan asked the question of who decides what food is authentic. So you go to a restaurant, let's say you go to a Peruvian restaurant and you tell all your friends, oh, I went to this great Peruvian restaurant. And they're like, wow, was it authentic Peruvian? Now, who determines this? That takes away from the chef being able to be creative, perhaps. And so it was a way for you to start to think like, why do I care if it's authentic? If it's go have the amazing experience at the restaurant. Don't worry about what you think is authentic. You know what I mean? So that talk really, TED loved that talk and they highlighted it in one of their newsletters. So that's the kind of thing I'm thinking of when it's what's an idea that just really gets people to sit up and go, this is gonna make me think differently.
So what would you suggest are some top tips for compiling a TEDx? Do you call them proposals or?
Yeah, of submission.
Yeah.
Okay, so first of all, are you the expert? You need to be an expert in that. You know, sometimes we get people like it's their hobby. They're just interested in it. They've read all the books. I'm like, well, did you write the book? If you wrote one of the books, maybe that would be, you would be considered the expert. So are you the expert in the topic that you are presenting? And then is this idea different? Which is so difficult. I know, but that is the exercise. And what I tell people to do is you want to write a really dynamic paragraph that encapsulates what you want to talk about. And I would write that paragraph again and again and again until you feel like it really is truly something that people will go, now that's a different thought. I've never even thought of that before. And you also want one of the things that we come across a lot are people that feel that they've got a motivational talk and then that's a TEDx talk. And of course you're going to think that because if you look at a lot of TEDx talks are motivational. We are not looking for motivational. We are not looking for professional speakers either. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be a professional speaker. Most of the speakers we put on stage are not professional speakers. They are people that are living, eating, breathing, doing this work that they have so much passion for day in and day out. They've solved a problem. They look at things differently. There's so many different types of paths, but in the end, the essence is this something that most people haven't heard of yet?
Oh, that's great input. You've mentioned TEDx and you've mentioned TED. Do you typically recommend that someone do a TEDx talk before they try and do a TED?
Yeah, so I wish that one of our TEDx speakers had made it to the TED stage. I don't really know how TED decides all of that. I do believe that they do look at some TEDx talks and put them on a stage, but they also want really original content, just like we do. So when people come in and think they've already got their talk ready to go, not ever once has that ever happened. We don't want the talk that you've done around the nation for however many times. It's very original to our stage and hence the recording as well. So, I mean, I think the answer is look at TED and TEDx. I mean, you can look at both. And also there's more than one TEDx, right? So we're TEDx St. Louis, but there are TEDx's across the globe and not all of them are area centric like we are. There's all kinds of universities that have a TEDx. There's TEDx WashU and TEDx SLU, TEDx Lindenwood, TEDx Maryville. There's a lot more than one TEDx in any given town that you can start to reach out to. Look on their websites, please, because I know I get a lot of people that reach out to me personally, and I don't always have time to look at all of those. So it's like go to the website and see what they are looking for and who you're supposed to contact about it. A lot of TEDx's are like ours. We're volunteers. I've got my full-time gig with 100th Monkey and such. So, we're all volunteers, and so we're fitting it in as we can. That's why I just direct people to please just go check this out and keep an eye out for when we're taking the next, round of submissions.
Richard, did that answer your question?
Interesting to me. It's interesting to me because I get asked frequently from other professional speakers that are doing TEDx speeches and using it as marketing tools. And I was just curious how they're getting. And I have a call next week about this. Why are they doing these, and how are they streamlining and going directly, or are they going through a process similar? I was just curious.
So are you talking about people that help people get a TEDx talk, or?
Both. I mean, some of my colleagues are people who have programs, but some of them actually have done the speeches, and there's a lot of professional speakers using those opportunities as marketing their expertise as another marketing.
Yeah, definitely. If you're a professional speaker and you want to have a TEDx talk, I'm probably not your TEDx, more than likely, but there are other TEDx's out there that would prefer you come in with your talk. Like, hey, we like your talk. Come on up and do it. Because there's smaller TEDx's out there that they don't have the bandwidth that we have. On the other side of that, there are many of our TEDx speakers that they say me doing this talk is what got me here.
I have one other point. Just I'm from Illinois, Southern Illinois, right across the river. I would appreciate it if you're in your content somewhere that you say Metro St. Louis, because Illinois people are not that far from St. Louis.
That's true.
I mean, just because I know you say St. Louis, but maybe in the writing somewhere you could say Metro St. Louis people.
I'm writing that down right now. Thank you, Richard.
You're welcome.
And Carol, I know when you lived here in St. Louis, you gave a talk for Kansas City, a TEDx talk. Can you share your experience with that?
Okay, yeah, and it's a really different process, as Mich said. This was TEDx Wyandotte, which is Wyandotte County in Kansas City, Kansas. And the sponsor is the Kansas City, Kansas Community College. They have the event there. And there are 2 staff members at the community college who are the sponsors, like Mich is for St. Louis. And I started out taking a free class from somebody who wanted to teach me how to get on a TEDx stage. And she offered a free webinar. And I took that, and then I resisted her upsell. I didn't pay for the next step, but what I learned from her, I implemented. And so it started with, find a TEDx stage where the people who sponsor it are either people you already know or they're connected to people you already know. And so I picked Wyandotte because in my LinkedIn contacts, people that I knew in Kansas City from that part of my career that I had there, they knew these 2 women who were the sponsors. And so I asked one of them to introduce me to her. And that's how I got started. They were about to have their final meeting to pick somebody. And on Friday, I emailed them about becoming a part of their consideration. And they were like, well, our final meeting on Monday night is going to decide, but if you can send us a 3-minute video on what you will talk about, we'll consider you at Monday night's meeting. So I set my phone up on my dresser in my bedroom and talked for 3 minutes about what I wanted to talk about. And that's
awesome.
how it went for me.
Now, great story. And that kind of ties in with Kim Carr. I know she lives out west of Wentzville. She's asking, what is the radius of TEDx St. Louis? Mich, can you kind of address that, please?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Kim, you'd be in our radius. Yeah. I mean, it's really just drawing from, as Richard would say, Metro St. Louis, so if you're, or if you're even tied to us, like we've had people that grew up here but moved away, or they are not from here, but now they work here, so we just really like to uplift the St. Louis area, whether you live here now or used to live here or what have you. Maybe you have a cousin here. That might work. I don't know.
Well, and whenever I hear Kim talk, people will always hear me say, I love Kim's humor. She's a great storyteller. So tell me, how does humor get incorporated into TEDx, or does it?
Oh, yeah. Well, it depends on the talk, obviously. Some
Right.
talks are very heavy. And we warn the audience ahead of time if there is, we let them know like, hey, this talk may trigger some stuff in people. This is what this talk is about. So just be aware, take care of yourself, leave if you need to, kind of thing. But yes, humor will definitely take place in some of the talks. And one of the classes that Coca Biz gives our speakers is basically how to craft a story. And they go through a whole workshop to learn how to craft a story. So while what we're looking for anyway, your TEDx talk from the TEDx St. Louis point of view is not going to be your personal story. A personal story may take part in the overall talk to better explain how you got into this, or what ignited the passion for what you're now doing.
And Kim says she grew up in St. Anne near Lambert. We'll claim you, sweetheart.
Yeah, you're ours. You belong to us. I grew up in Hazelwood, so
Yeah, it's all good. Yeah. So, what are some key tips for crafting that talk proposal that we
I
haven't already gone over? Yeah.
I think we've gone over a lot, but I think the big thing is just like what, and it's the most difficult thing to distill down. What is the big idea? So I'll give you some ideas that might spark, your thought process around this. So one of the things I help my clients with is if they are a client there's a lot of them. You know what I mean? So you're a realtor, or you're in insurance, or and it's like there's a lot of you out there. So how can you put yourself apart from everyone and get people to sit up and pay attention to you? So I've got like one client, and her gig is she's what's called a site selection manager. She talks to meeting and event professionals, and she helps them do requests for proposals. And, like the event professional may come to them and say, oh, I have 200 people that I need to bring to this conference, and this is what it needs to look like. And we need these meeting rooms and X amount of sleeping rooms and what have you. Well, in her world, when she introduces herself that, I'm a site selection manager, everybody's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I got it. We
Whatever.
don't
Yeah.
talk anymore, right? And she's like, how do I get someone to pay attention to me? And so the one we came up from for her was when people say, what do you do? She goes, oh, I help companies sleep around. Now people pay attention to her.
Yeah.
Go, wait, what? And then now she's an interesting human being, you know?
Mhm.
Another thought is, if you look at certain books and they've got something visual that helps carry that book along, so that like keeps you focused on things, and you're not losing sight of what is this book about. So there's a book out there by Deb Gott called Morph Pivot Launch.
Mhm.
And Deb came to me and was like, Mish, how do I keep people, I need like a muse for this book. And the one I came up with for that was a tumblewing. And I'm going to explain this in the most unscientific way possible because I'm not sciencey, but it's a tumblewing is something you can like literally fold from paper, and then to keep it up, you've got like a piece of cardboard or something heftier that you're going like this to keep it up. And that's what Deb's book is about. It's about, I am done with my career, but I don't want to retire. I want to morph, pivot, and launch into something else. And then Deb and this book and her consulting of you helps keep that lifted. So there's this tumbling that goes throughout the whole book. So what you want to think is, what's a way that I can get attention? I mean, I've had people like, I speak on abundance, and yet they're not really abundant. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, so maybe speak on something else. Like, be the expert in this and really have something so different. I mean, if you came to me and said you wanted to speak on vulnerability, I would say, well, that is owned by Brene Brown, who's had, I don't know how many TED Talks at this point. What are you going to say about vulnerability that's so different than what she shows up with?
So
And
Rich, yeah.
it's a real exercise to get there. Yeah, I wish I had the magical, I get people like, Mish, what should my TED, you know me, what should my TED Talk be? Whoa, that's not easy. That's a whole
Yeah.
exercise in and of itself. And maybe start with your friends. Like what do I do or say to you that really makes you stop and think? Or you see it in someone's eyes, like you say something to someone and you see them kind of like, oh, wait, oh, that's so interesting. I never thought of that before. That could be a TED Talk.
So Richard offers a proposed title of, what do you think about men are skin hungry?
Men are skin hungry. Well, I'd like to know what more that's about, I guess, Richard.
And Karen Libby's asking, and this is a great one that I want to make sure we talk about. Can you let us know what the theme is for your May event?
Well, the theme's going to be curiosity, but we have these themes that they're all encompassing, right? Like we don't want to have a bunch of talks that are really just about curiosity. We want to have a lot of different types of talks for a lot of different type of people. So the theme is just kind of loose. It's just a way to brand that
The big
particular.
umbrella.
Yeah, exactly.
So the
Exactly.
talks for that specific event may involve curiosity or may not.
But I
Yeah,
mean, they're all going to spark curiosity,
right.
right? Like that's the idea. Our women's event last time was amplify because we
Mhm.
were amplifying the voices of women. So it tends to just, we don't really have like all of this is going to be about, I don't know, cars.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So the Carol had mentioned earlier, part of the reason, and you also had too, is that she went with Wyandotte was because she knew people in that arena,
Mhm.
area. And so as you're, let's say you're from Phoenix, is that someplace similar to what Carol did? Check that out as well as St. Louis, even though you may live here now.
Well, again, every TEDx is different. Not all TEDx's are very, drawing from just an area like we are. There are many TEDx's that, they don't care where you're from. They'll fly you in. They like your talk. They like what you've proposed to them. And I don't even know how many TEDx's there are at this point. I mean, I think I lost count when it was like at 2,500 worldwide. I'm sure there's a lot more now.
Mhm.
It's put together a really dynamic proposal. So like these people that are, I'll get you a TEDx talk. Well, they've gone out and they've become buddies with a bunch of the license holders because some license holders would like to just be fed speakers as opposed to doing what we do, and they're out there. So if you're looking at this from the standpoint of, I really want to get this TEDx talk because I know that this will uplift my career and what I'm doing, then go do some research and send this to a number of different TEDx's.
So as Richard asked, is there a financial investment?
For the person on the
Yeah.
doing the
If I
speaking,
want to be a speaker at TEDx.
no, it's a big,
Okay.
huge no to pay them. In fact, that's one of the reasons why, like we'll get
No,
speakers and they'll say, oh, I would love to sponsor this. I'm like, yeah, no, we can't, it cannot, you can't look like you've bought your talk. It has to be with the highest of integrity. And so no one gets paid. There's no exchange of money. It's just you want to be, we would love you to be on our stage. And then,
okay,
Is
yeah.
that cover it, Richard?
yes. Yeah.
Okay, good. And Kim, I think you had a similar question. Did we get all yours answered? Are there any other kind of fees involved? It sounds like maybe no.
I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to buy a new outfit,
Yeah.
if you want somebody to make your slides for you,
Yeah.
there may be some cost involved there, but we're not requiring any.
That's a great question, because I know a couple of the speaker trainers here in St. Louis, and some will say, don't ever use slides. Others will say, well, yeah, use slides, but do ABC. What's your uh, best suggestion on slides?
We want the slides to really lend to the talk. Not every talk requires slides. And if you have slides, if you notice, on our stage anyway, when they are using slides, it doesn't have a lot of words. It might have one word, it might have a few words, but there's rarely words used. We really are looking for a picture that evokes a certain emotion or sense of something. And so we will help with that. And then, let's say that a speaker really only needs three slides for their whole talk to illustrate a certain point. You'll notice that the slide will be up there. They'll talk about what's going on with that slide. And then we go to blank space. We'll just have a blackout slide until they need another one, because there's a reason we really want people to focus on the speaker. That's part of the reason for the red rug. Stay on that rug. Do not be running around on that stage. You stay on the rug because we want people to be focused on you.
So hard.
So we're videotaping this thing, so we can't have you running all over the place. So there's it, and you'll also notice that there's rarely, if ever, do you see a podium or anybody with notes. I mean, you're right there, very vulnerable, connecting to that audience.
And you're saying 10 to 12 minutes.
That's
St. Louis. Yeah.
preferred. And we get speakers that just are like, "Oh, Miss, you're so mean." I'm like, "I'm not doing this to be mean. I'm doing this because I know that you have a better chance of people clicking on that talk, because people's attention span." I mean, even we as the TEDx, when we first started doing this, and we'd have like 10 or 12 speakers in a day. And then at one point we start seeing people going, "This is too long. It's just too long." And people weren't staying. And I'm like, attention spans we don't have those. So now we're down to where we're doing 5 or 6 speakers.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And so I want to make sure you get your question in for Mich. We've got about 5 more minutes of conversation that we want to have here today. So if you do have a question, either raise your hand or make sure you get it into the chat, and we'll make sure we get that answered. Richard, I see you're unmuted. Do you have a question?
Oh, no, well, I was just going to say the issue that she just brought up about listening in short terms, even keynote speaking today is shorter than we have been doing for years. It used to be 45 minutes. Now it's 30, and it's got to have group involvement. So things are really changing drastically. So I appreciate you saying that. And even with videos, same thing, very short, 1, 2, 3 minutes max.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The concept is to keep your audience awake. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, I remember the days where I would get a book and I would be so annoyed. I'd want to learn something, and the whole half front of it was the history of blah blah blah, and I'd be like, "Oh, I just want to get to the meat of this." And it used to annoy me, and I obviously wasn't the only person that was annoyed by it, because now people just like, "Let's just get to the meat. Like, tell me what it is. I want the nuggets now."
Oh,
Exactly.
Hi. Is there a certain question like to ask yourself to pull out the TED Talk out of your brain?
Oh, I wish I had that magical question. I think it's right now with the way that TED has, so their new branding that is ideas change everything. Like, how is your idea changing something? How is your idea changing your community? How is your idea changing the way something has typically been done? Now there's this new way to do it. I mean, it's fascinating, the people that we've had on our stage that, had an experience, and from that experience, they were like, I can see a way to do this better, and then they build a whole business around it. That's so interesting. So it's, how is your idea changing?
Is there a website where someone can go and there's a list of all the TEDx stages?
I mean, if you go to the TEDx.com, I'm sure that's listed all on there.
Okay.
Another thing you guys might want to know is Chris Anderson, who's the head of TED. He has a book called TED Talks, the Official Guide to Public Speaking, I think it is. And that is such a good book to read, to really understand and get a feel for, what a TED Talk is. And then he gives a lot of examples in there of like, this TED Talk, here's, what made it awesome, why it ranks compared to the others. Yeah, I mean, even what's on the TED stage doesn't always make it to video.
So what we'll do is we'll find those links, and we'll get his name again from you, and and look up the name of the book, and we'll get those links to people. And let's see, Cheryl, you have your hand up, and then I'll come back and make sure we get Kim Carr's question answered.
I just wanted to say, Mitch, I love your energy. I've been smiling all morning. You're just infectious.
Thank you.
I wanted to share, you're welcome. I wanted to share with you just something fun. And this was an opportunity that I had to work on a doctoral program. Sounds kind of boring, a doctorate in health administration. But I want to do something really innovative. And at the very end, when we developed this program, you know how dissertations go. You write them, someone sticks them on a shelf in a library. Someone once told me they put a $20 bill in their dissertation on the library shelf just to see if it ever disappeared. And they just don't go anywhere. Now, some people, I'm sure Brene Brown is very famous for her dissertation, but most of us wrote dissertations that sat on shelves. And so what we decided this time is, because we were at Morehouse School of Medicine and where they believe in innovation in healthcare, we had our doctoral candidates give a TED Talk. Now, they haven't, it's like a talk, we use Talk Like TED just to get them, it's not even close to what you all do, but it was just to get them an idea that there was a project for sure. And it was a project meant to change healthcare to reach particularly diverse populations and communities. But the first group of students will be presenting their TED Talks very, very soon.
How fun. I love that.
Just something a little different.
It's a really interesting exercise to say to people, make this a TED Talk.
Yes, and especially because we told them you're going to be a doctoral student. Yes, you'll have audiences that are very professional, et cetera, and blah, 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 blah. You may be very famous in a science way, but you need to be convincing, because you have to convince a staff, you have to convince your leadership, you have to convince so many people, Congress people, in order to affect change in healthcare. And we wanted them to have that pizzazz of a TED Talk.
I love that you shared this with me, because, that's one of the challenges we have, is when we have a doctor or a research type of person who's used to going, here's my white paper, I will now speak for 2 hours on it. And then we're helping them to create a TED Talk. And they're like, oh no, my peers won't. We're like, this isn't your peer. This needs to be accessible to a much bigger audience. So you can't have a bunch of numbers and graphs and things that are like, what am I looking at? And you can't use these terms that no one understands. And so it can be a real challenge for us to help the doctor. My cat this is my cat's tail that just keeps, I don't know what she's doing.
But you're right. We had them focus solution focused healthcare. It was really fun.
Yeah.
So
I also see it as patient focused, because it's helping them learn how to speak to the patient as a human, not necessarily another PhD.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Beautiful.
Love that. So Kim, you're asking, if you're recording the talks and posting them, are they posted exclusively to your TEDx channel for St. Louis? Talk a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, no, when we're done, I upload everything to the TED organization, and then they put them all out on their channel. If they don't put it out on the channel, like sometimes they come back and they're like, we need so-and-so's research on all of this, because they just want to, make sure that this is for real. And then like we've got a talk right now by a gentleman, David Wraith, and his talk was Get Naked with Friends and Strangers. And he didn't wear a lot of clothes on the stage. So, that got your attention right away. But TED came back to me and they're like, we don't want to release this talk yet because we think it's really important. And we'd like to have a whole marketing strategy around it. Are you okay if we hold it back? I was like, oh, sure. Just let me know.
Yeah. And Carol's is asking, as the speaker, I don't own the asset of my video on the website. It's embedded as a link to the TEDx site where it's stored. Okay.
Yeah, we don't own them either. It belongs to TED and TEDx.
But I have it on my website. I can put
Which
the
you can
link
definitely
in
do.
that.
Yeah. So you definitely can, use that talk to market. There's, of course.
So if you have a YouTube channel, you can put the link there also.
Yeah, on one of your playlists or what have you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, great. So any other last minute questions? I'm going to ask Mich while you're thinking of your question.
I got one question or statement. Mitch, I really appreciate what you're talking about, the issue of change and the impact it has on a person's life. That is more the issue right now on the national circuit of speakers. Motivational speaking is not being hired as often anymore, as much as speeches about how does your life change, not just look at me, my life was miserable and I overcame
right.
obstacles. So it is changing. So I appreciate you saying that.
Oh, thank you.
I love that. So, Mish, any last words of wisdom that you can send with us on our way this afternoon?
Yeah, I mean, my thought is if you're interested in doing this, go first look at some of the talks that have been presented by that particular TEDx, so you get a sense of what that looks like for them, and then maybe begin looking at these talks in a different way. Rather than you're taking it in as an entertainment value, look at it more of I'm researching what did this person do that really grabbed my attention that I would like to utilize in my talk.
I love that. And Cheryl, I want to thank you for your comment also. I found myself smiling the entire time also. I could see your smile and I can see everybody else's smile. And it's like, it was a goosebump moment, you know. Mish, I thank you for your energy. I thank you for being here today. I do want to remind everybody, our next guest will be here on Thursday, February 13th. And you're lucky, there's going to be 5. Our core team here at Davis Creative Publishing has grown. We now have 5, what I call our besties on our team. And we're going to be talking about, or we're actually going to be answering all your questions. It gives you a chance to bring your questions. We'll have answers. If not, we'll make stuff up. No, we really won't do that. But so you'll get a chance, if you've not met Jack or Julie or Missy, and I'll be there also. Make sure that you join us on the 13th of February, 11:30 a.m. in the morning, and bring your questions. We'll talk about publishing and get those answered for you. Mish, thank you so much. I'm going to carry my smile the rest of the day.
Thank you, Thelma. Love you all. Thanks so much.
Be
Thanks,
watching
Mish.
for your follow-up email with the link on how to connect with Mish. Thanks.
Bye, all. Have a
Bye-bye.
good one.